Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Kenyan Rider. So today we're going to be talking about the dangers, or rather some of the dangers of riding a motorcycle. In this case in Nairobi, because that's where I spend 98% of my time riding a motorcycle. With actual examples from personal experience as to why these particular situations are dangerous. So one of the first reasons, and I think this one relates to most of the motorcyclists out there, is dangerous drivers. And dangerous drivers can cause issues for you in various ways. That is through overtaking, through brake checks, through joining roads without checking, and changing lanes again without indicating or checking that you're there. So what stories do I have on dangerous drivers? The story on overtaking. This is something that happened to me quite recently. I remember it was on a Sunday, and I really did not expect to go through such an ordeal on a Sunday, because Sundays tend to be, people tend to be more relaxed when they're driving, so nobody's in that much of a hurry, and there's not much traffic on the road, so I expected things to be a bit calm. But then on my way to the shops, this bus driver decided to overtake right there when I was on the other lane. And I remember I was trying to flash the lights, and this bus driver, all he could do was just hoot and continue overtaking at a very high speed with no signs of stopping. I tried to check the sides of the road. I was just seeing the pavement, and the pavement was raised a bit, so I couldn't just swerve off the road, because I would have actually crashed. So I had to accelerate to try and reach one of these outlets. How do I explain it? When you have that pavement, and then they create these openings where drivers can join estates. Maybe there's a gate somewhere, and there's that area where the pavement actually stops. So I managed to get to one of those just in the nick of time, before this bus driver actually decided to ram into me. This one also happened away from Nairobi. I think I was doing one of my solo rides, those areas of Naivasha, and then again this time it was a trailer. They just decided to overtake right there. The only good thing is that I actually had space to swerve off the road, and the truck driver knew that. The one that really affected me was this one that happened in Nairobi with that bus driver, because I literally had almost nowhere to run to, because the other side of the road had another bus that they were overtaking. In front of me was a bus. On my left was the pavement. I couldn't just swerve off the road. Brake check. This one happened when I was along, I think it was Kiambu Road. So I was busy riding behind this car, and then for some reason they just decided to brake very hard, and I think it was more or less like a chain event that happened far ahead of me, and they braked so fast or so hard that I couldn't actually stop in time, because I didn't want to lock my tires. So I could only brake so much to avoid that locking of tires, and I eventually knocked them from behind. Luckily it wasn't that. It was more or less like I hit them at 1 kilometer an hour. So there's literally no damage to the vehicle. but then it also got me thinking that I was actually riding far too fast and too close to this particular person, that I was unable to stop in good time. Yeah, and for people just joining roads without thinking, personally I can't remember of a particular example of that, but I know it happens. People who just change lanes without thinking. I remember this happened to me one day. I was coming from work, and then this I think it was an Uber driver or something. I think they're on their phone or something. They just change lanes so fast. And I remember, and again, one of the common things that I noticed is that I was riding too fast, because I was coming way too fast, and then they just decided to join the road, and had I not had quick reactions, I would have knocked them from behind. Yeah, so how do you reduce the risk from dangerous drivers? And that for me the biggest thing is just defensive riding techniques. Maintain safe distances. Had I maintained safe distances, these people giving me brake checks and changing lanes would not have caused quite an issue to me. All I would have just done is just shake my head in disappointment. Avoid speeding during heavy traffic. This one is quite important, especially for situations where people change lanes, because I know some of you might have come across some of these drivers who change lanes so quickly. I think they're just trying to join a faster lane or something. By the time your lane splitting, and that can cause quite an issue, especially if you're going too fast. And ensure that you're moving slightly faster than traffic. The whole point of this is just to be an active road user, or in motorcycle terms, and also the logic behind it is to make sure that the drivers around you can notice that you're there. Remember, don't go too fast, but just move slightly faster than the traffic around you, because as a car driver myself, I don't always notice motorcycles around me, because I have so many things to worry about. So when you actually try to be an active road user, make sure that your headlights are on. You're basically trying to ensure that you're visible. I know, as again, coming from the experience of being a car driver, the headlights are what shows me that a motorcycle is around me, even during the day. Whenever I check my mirrors, the first thing I notice is the headlights. So that's why it's always important, and it always draws the attention of drivers when a headlight is on. So that's why they always say that when you're riding a motorcycle, you always make sure that your headlights are on, and if you have auxiliary lights, switch them on as well. And moving faster than the traffic is just because sometimes car drivers can tend to forget that you're actually there. They noticed you at first, but then since you're moving at the same speed, they just tend to forget that you're around, and then that's when now they can start changing lanes when you're actually there. So it can actually cause an accident. Yeah. But if you want to move the same speed as traffic, make sure that you're very visible, number one, and number two, you maintain safe distances between you and the cars behind you and the cars in front of you. If a car is driving too close to you from behind, accelerate and make sure that at least there's a gap. And if not, maybe you can just indicate to them to slow down or show your discomfort. The second danger is slippery road surfaces. story that I have on that. I remember the first time I got my bike. There's this time I was riding somewhere in Upper Hill near Radisson Blue, and I remember, I think it had, I don't know what had happened, but there was a stream of water on the road at a junction. Yeah, and I remember I was turning that corner very relatively fast, and the front tire came across that water and it actually skid. Luckily the strip of water was very thin, so after skidding it immediately gained traction. I was actually about to fall at a corner at a high speed. That would have been very bad. Another example, I was riding along Gong Road, and then these water trucks was actually spilling water on the road, and they're leaving like a stream of water on the road. So when it reached a red light, I was trying to brake. I mean, I wasn't braking so hard because it was controlled braking and all that, but I was braking like I normally would on a dry surface, and my back actually started skidding. And I think the good thing is that I had gotten so used to my motorcycle that such a skid would not result in a crash. But if I had a much bigger bike and maybe I was still kind of green in riding that motorcycle, I could have actually fallen down. Yeah, so wet surface it's not always because of rain, but it could just be maybe there's a stream of water on the road, a puddle somewhere, someone has poured something on the road, maybe oil has spilled on the road, something that can cause your tires to grip less on the road, to have less grip on the road, that can cause you to skid and fall. So just like that, rain is also an issue for the same reasons as that wet surface, because now with rain it's literally everywhere. It's not just a small patch of the road, but it's the whole road itself becomes slippery. Loose particles on tarmac. Mombasa Road. This one happened on Mombasa Road. I was riding on the side of the road, the extreme left, where you find most motorcyclists like riding in an attempt to move faster than traffic, especially when there's heavy traffic on the road. And this is a patch of the road that most car drivers avoid using just because of lanes and all that. So stones and pebbles always gather around places like that which are rarely used. So that part, I remember I was again riding faster than I should have, and then this bus driver decided to join that particular lane, again in an attempt to beat traffic, and the move was so fast that I had to react very fast because I was coming at a high speed, and if I failed to brake in time I would have knocked the bus. So I braked relatively hard and my front tire skid. Again, at that time I was lucky that I had gotten used to my bike and the weight and all that, so I was able to recover from such a situation, but it could have easily led into an accident. So sometimes when you see that the road has areas with small pebbles, just some loose particles on the tarmac, be very careful. Mud, for obvious reasons, mud tends to be slippery and is quite a challenging terrain to ride, so it's always worth being very cautious when you're on such surfaces. Another danger of riding a motorcycle is braking too hard. With a car you can easily just brake as hard as you can, because most cars have the ABS system. Most low-end bikes tend not to have an ABS system, which means that it's very likely that when you brake too hard your wheels will actually lock, and there are actually various consequences for your wheels locking, be it the front or the back, and if you're very unlucky, both. But there's actually a consequence for each tire locking, which it would be good for you to research on what are some of the dangers of locking the tires, and then also how to recover from them, because there are ways you can save yourself from danger after your brakes after tires have locked. So it's also good to keep in track, keep yourself updated on what you need to do to recover from wheels that have locked. Or if you just want to avoid all that hassle, get a bike with ABS and always leave it on. The fourth and final reason that we're going to talk about is crossing pedestrians. I don't know about you, but I've had scenarios where I'm riding the bike on the road and then a pedestrian just decides to cross the road, whether I'm there or not. And again, I was riding at a relatively high speed, and this set of pedestrians decided to cross the road, and I had nowhere to go to swerve to avoid hitting them if I were to maintain the same speed, because on my extreme right was a car coming at a high speed, and left was where the pedestrians were going, so again I would have collided with them. So I had to brake really hard, and I remember luckily the wheels didn't lock that time, but they were about to. The bike actually started dancing a bit, like it's skidding sideways, and I remember if I had continued braking like that, the wheels would have finally locked, and maybe the front tire would have locked, and I would have actually flipped and crashed. So sometimes it's always good to be very vigilant of where you're riding, and especially if you're passing an area where pedestrians tend to cross a lot, then I would suggest you lower your speed. Move at a speed that you know you can easily either swerve or stop, come to a complete stop in the event that people decide to cross when they're not supposed to, because it can happen to you anytime, any place. Yeah, so those are just some of the dangers that I'll cover in this particular video. And on a side note, I've noticed that the channel has finally reached more than 100 subscribers. I'd just like to thank each and every one of you for the support that you've given me and for subscribing to the channel, and I hope that you enjoy the videos that you get, and I'll see you in the next one.